Hello, welcome to Bike Flips. Sorry it's been a while, haven't had anything come through the garage recently, but I've got something today. It's a Scott Purgatory, probably about 20 years old I guess, looks like a late 90s mountain bike. And it was another one that was going to be thrown in the skip, so my mission today is to save it. It didn't cost me anything, but I mean it's not rideable at the moment, but it looks like it's a fairly complete bike. Should be fairly easy to fix up, and there's a market for this sort of thing. People that want to commute, people that just want leisure rides or aren't really that bothered about having the latest and greatest bike. It's the sort of thing you could leave outside a station and not worry too much about it being stolen. So let's see what's actually wrong with it first of all. Right, obvious problem here is we've got no inner tube, so I'm pretty sure I've got a 26-inch inner tube in the drawer somewhere. Brakes are disconnected, but it looks like they're all there at least. We've got a fair bit of rust and stuff, but that's not too much hassle, that'll clean up. Gears, cables are all there. They don't actually shift, so I presume they're just sort of rusted up. Got a very rusty looking chain, but again it seems to be okay-ish. It's pretty dirty. I mean, this will all clean up okay, I'm sure. Back brake is connected and seems to be working. And yeah, it all looks complete at least, so I reckon I can get this bike going and fully functional, probably with only just the addition of an inner tube. But let's see what it takes. Yep, that one looks like a good candidate. Let's get it on the wheel and get some air in it and see if it'll do. It's got a few repairs on it, but you know, on a bike like this, what's the point in putting a brand new inner tube on? It's going to take £4 off my profit margin. Looking at all this gunk inside the tyre, I think I better give this a good clean before I put the inner tube in and pump it up, otherwise it's just going to cause punctures further down the line. The inner tube went in nicely, fitted perfectly, and tyre was an absolute dream to put on. It was one of those ones that doesn't even require tyre levers for, just lift it on with your fingers. Fantastic. I've got no idea if this tyre is directional. I guess it kind of wants the knobbles sort of vaguely pointing forward, but normally they have markings on them. This one doesn't. But let's stick a little bit of air in it and see if it holds. And it's not holding the air, so let's get this inner tube back out again and see what's up with it. God, I could have saved myself a bit of time by doing the inner tube out of the tyre first, but you live and learn, I guess. That's it. At last I've managed to find a inner tube that's actually capable of holding air. So my smugness around using an old rubbishy one has now dissipated. I have still used an old inner tube here, but it's not quite as rubbish as the one I put in before, and that seems to be holding air now. Rear tyre, absolutely fine. Yeah, I didn't need to do anything to that, just stuck some air in it, and it was and it's holding pretty nicely. I've noticed we have got quite substantial play in the headset here. So that's going to be something I'm going to have to fix, but that shouldn't be too hard. Probably just needs a little bit of greasing and then tightening up. But the next job I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put some oil in these cables, in the outer cables anyway, just because I can see these are really, really rusty, these cables, and that will really help with the shift mechanism doing that. So the way to do that, as an example, just loosen it right off there. So we've got plenty of slack, like that, you see, plenty of slack. Then you can just pop these cables out of the holders. This is one of the great advantages of having external cable guides, is they can normally just be pulled straight out like that. There we go. I'm going to run some oil just down the end there, and then slide it back and forth like that. Work it right the way through the system. Do the same at every point. Put it all back together again once it's had a good chance to soak, and then the gears should run much more smoothly when it comes to doing that. But the longer I leave it, the longer it'll take to run down through the cables and have a nice chance of getting into all the rusty bits. In this particular case, I'm actually going to use some of this general purpose bike grease. Just put it along the cable like that. It looks a bit messy to start with. Just like that, something like that. And then you just run the cable guide back and forth like that. It works its way deeper and deeper into the cable guide. And I'm going to do that at every point where I possibly can to give it as much lubrication as is really reasonable, and it should be good as new very soon. This one down here is a really important one actually, because this it's got quite a sharp bend in the cable here, so that's definitely when you want to get absolutely loads of grease on. It's also where water will tend to pool as it's sort of run down the cable. It goes into the bend and then sits there and gets really rusty, so that's one definitely worth putting a lot of effort into. The last piece of the puzzle when it comes to the gears is the actual derailleur itself, so I'm going to absolutely drench that in 3-in-1 oil. 3-in-1's a little bit more penetrating than the grease I was using before, so this should really help get into the insides of this. This is going to need a clean-up. You can see these great big sort of lumps of tar here. It will need a proper clean-up, but first I just want to get the thing moving so that when I try and shift gears it doesn't break anything. Brakes are all hooked up again now. I'm not entirely convinced by this routing going forward the way it does like that, but they work absolutely brilliantly. You see the action there, nice and smooth. But this also highlights the main problem with the headset there, which is very, very loose. And I don't know if you can really see that on the camera, but there's a heck of a lot of movement there, which I need to sort out. But that's easy enough to solve. All I've got to do is just undo these, with the correct size tool of course, there we are. Undo that. Then I'm going to have a little look inside these caps and just check if they need a little bit of grease, then tighten it all up again. Here we go. So now everything's been loosened off, I can take the top cap out. I can lift the handlebars off. Just going to have to dangle there for a bit. Lift off these rings that create the stack. Then you can lift off the top of the headset and you can see the first bearing race here. Okay, so that's going to get a little bit of grease. And the second bearing race is just poking out down there. So again, that's going to get a little bit of grease too. I'm just going to use my handy all-purpose bike grease for that and just literally squirt it in the top. Plenty of it. And then again round here, I'm going to have to put the camera down to do this in a second, but you get the idea. And we just push all the bits together again, push them all together again in the same order. Push that down as hard as you can. Get this top cap in. And then here's the important thing. We need to do this up quite tight before we do up these, okay, because this pulls the whole lot together and will compress those bearings and stop that annoying wobble that makes it seem like you've got a loose headset. So do that up nice and tight and then do these ones up next. So there we are, we've now got pumped up tyres, functioning gears, functioning brakes, tightened up headset, and I think what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to get some 3-in-1 on this chain. Just drizzle it all the way around the chain. It's rusty as heck, but once there's a bit of oil on it, we'll spin it round and then I'll be able to test ride it and just check everything's working as it should be. Right, here we are. Time to take this thing on a first ride. Let's just check everything's functioning okay. Yeah, everything seems to be working as it should. Let's push off and go. Get off to a good start. Up to the gears. That seems to go pretty well. Brakes are working absolutely fine as well. Good news. So that was an excellent quick test ride I've done there. Everything worked absolutely as it should do. No problems whatsoever. I think the brakes were a little bit grabby and the suspension was ever so slightly sticky. Both of those are going to sort of loosen up as you use the bike and they should become a little bit more consistent. But everything worked as it should. I didn't even need to index the gears. The gears were absolutely spot on, so no problems there at all. Next things is I'm going to take off the mud guards and the bell and the other bits and accessories that nobody's really interested in when they buy a bike. I won't bin them, I'll supply them with the bike, but for the sake of photos to get on eBay, I'll keep it nice and clean looking. And of course, on the subject of clean looking, I like to give it a really thorough clean, proper deep clean with degreaser, and then dry it all off and lubricate it all up again, and then it'll be good to go. I'm pretty pleased with this. It's cost me nothing, and it's a pretty decent bike actually. I'm sure, my guess is it will go for sort of 60 or 70 quid. So let's see how that goes.